hello, and welcome to Purpose, your place to become informed, motivated, and inspired. This is a place to have your thoughts ignited about your purpose, a platform designed to energize and encourage you to begin walking down the exciting path of your discovery. I am your host, June Hollingsworth, and I am so excited to have someone with me here tonight who is a phenomenal author with a new book out entitled Helping Other People Evolve, a story of hope helping other people evolve. So please welcome to our stage tonight, Tammy Connors.
Hi.
Hi, Tammy.
Hi, June. How are you?
I'm great, and I'm excited to interview you and have this conversation with you tonight about your book. So
Thank
excited.
you.
I read it. Man, there's so many things in that book that I could relate to because I come from a family with some similar issues,
Okay.
addiction, and oh gosh, this is like heavy stuff to even get into.
Mm-hmm.
So let me pause right there before I get into all of that. But it was a good read. It was exciting. I'm telling you, your readers, I'm looking forward to the feedback from the readers when they start to purchase your book. It's really going to be a book that's going to help so many people. So the introduction is what struck me immediately because your focus was on the reader. Because I started out, I didn't skip, and just go down like chapter 5. I said, let me just start with the intro. And you wrote this book. It seemed like it wasn't a cathartic therapeutic tool for you, but it appears like you wrote this book for other people, like you were focusing on the pain, of other people's lives and for them, to have something to identify with. You said that your transparency, which so many people are afraid to be transparent, can lead to someone's transformation. How so? Explain what you mean by that.
Yeah. So actually, first I want to thank you so much for having me on here. It's just such an honor. So that quote actually came from Trent Shelton. I don't know if you know who he is or not, but he's a motivational speaker. And I heard him say that one time. And when I heard that, I thought, I feel like I've been through a lot of struggles in my life, but God has gotten me through them. And if I keep my story to myself, no one will realize that you can get through these things. So I feel like for me to be transparent through it all, that someone else could look and say, oh my gosh, I've been through something like that. And with her sharing a story of hope, maybe I could get through that myself.
Well, I tell you what, that's awesome that you're willing to be transparent, because all those stories, when you like started out and said, here's a memory, here's a short memory, and I'm like, oh, here we go with another story that's so interesting, and you told all these different stories and weaved us through your life from beginning to end. But I want to jump right in with a very dramatic scene of your father drowning in the tub at 34 years old.
Yes.
And you were a child at the time, and what I thought about it, what I thought about that was the alcoholism and the addiction is what led him to just go to sleep and drown. And we know we've had entertainers who have unfortunately had that fate. We've heard of other people drowning because of an overdose or because of just an addictive lifestyle. And so I thought about you, Tammy. I said, she was a child at that time. Did you know what predisposition was? And did you have a feeling of fear that this might happen to you, or you were seeing this going on in your family?
Well, at 13 years old, I'll never forget the scream from my mom, telling me to call the neighbors. And I immediately ran downstairs. And, at that time we just had the cord, regular dial phone. And seeing my mom trying to help get him out of the bathtub, and knowing that my dad was sick before that too, as I had said in the book, and weighing only about 95 pounds and in and out of the hospital. In my mind at that time, I can remember thinking to myself, well, I'll never be like that. I know what alcoholism and addiction will happen. It will be death, jail, or insanity. And I watched my dad go through all three, right? I watched the death. I watched the jail in and out. I watched the insanity of him being, put through shock treatments and stuff, and then death. So in my mind, absolutely not. That wasn't going to happen to me. I wasn't going to do that. Well,
so, man, that's a perfect segue into what I was thinking, because you had pancreatitis, you had, acute pancreatitis, you had jaundice, I was thinking about this beautiful woman was going to work. You got down to 85 pounds.
Mhm.
I'm like, it's like our coworkers and our friends almost turn into our enablers and our worst enemies, and then you think about having this issue. And we're having this conversation tonight for everybody that's joining us and watching and listening. And there's somebody that's listening that needs this tonight. Why do we stay in denial for so long as an addict? What do you think that is?
Geez, it's so hard to even, because I feel like once I got to that point where I was physically addicted, in the beginning, it was just partying, having fun. And then it came to the point to the shakes and the shots of Listerine just to get me going through my mornings and, all of that. And at that point, I don't even know if it's a denial anymore. It's just, you're so sick that it's not even, I can't even say that I was like, oh, I'm not an alcoholic, because I can remember looking in the mirror, shaking, drinking a shot of Listerine and going, oh my gosh, you're your father. Here you are, and just as sick as can be. So I think at that point, it's such a physical and mental thing that it's hard to really not see it as that, I guess would be the way to say it. It's just, you're getting through every day, just trying to get through being sick and function, I guess. At that point in my life, towards the end of my drinking career, as I called it, my main focus was making sure my son had food on the table. And that was, no matter what, I had to work and do that, so I think that, it's really hard to describe, I guess.
Yeah. I was married to an addict, and I've got people in my family that have been addicts. So I understood a lot of what you were writing, and especially how it seems like alcoholics, their in game liquor of choice is vodka, because the myth that you can't smell it.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
for me and others who don't know what the shot of Listerine is for, explain to me, why would you do what you're not? Because I said, is she swallowing the Listerine?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Serious?
Yeah. And the reason why is because if you look at the bottle of Listerine, I think it's 10% alcohol. So it's actually will get you, it was just enough to get the shakes away so I could get to the store and get whatever I needed. If I didn't have the alcohol in my house, I always had Listerine in my house. So it's just,
never heard of that.
Well, and the thing is I probably would have never either, but I can recall somebody, I think at an AA meeting or something, sometime in my life, talking about it. So I can remember the day that I was like, oh, I can describe my Listerine real quick and drink it. Disgusting. I mean, disgusting.
Wait, that doesn't make you sick? I would always think, because if Listerine goes down the side of my throat, I'm like, oh God, because I'm thinking it's going to do something to my insides. It doesn't do anything to you?
Well, I mean, at that point I was sick anyway. So I guess, I was just needing the alcohol to not withdraw so bad.
Wow. And that really did help.
Yeah, it really did. Yeah.
Well, there's something that I wanted to read for the benefit of everyone that's with us tonight. When you were rushed to the hospital in Toledo and people thought you were going to die.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Upon your discharge, this is what got me. When you put in here, they gave you a yellow note, which read, your alcohol level is 0.399. Do not consume any more alcohol. And you were like, they didn't say go and get help. You need to check into rehab. They just said, do not consume any more alcohol. For the benefit of all of us that don't know what 0.399 is, what is that?
So 0.399. So your blood, so let's say you get a DUI, your blood alcohol 0.08 is above that, is basically you'll get a DUI.
Wow.
So you get up to like 0.20 and you're pretty well wasted. 0.399 to 0.410, I think it is you could go into a coma, you could go into seizures. You definitely need medical attention at that moment because you most likely could die. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I learned so much reading the information, and going through the stories. I remember I had a conversation with my aunt one time because we are dealing with a family member who was an alcoholic. And she said that she read this medical report that said they did a research experiment with somebody who was addicted to alcohol and another person who was addicted to drugs, and they locked them up for 24 hours
Mm.
in a confined space. And when they went back to get them, the alcoholic was dead
Yeah.
and the drug addict was alive. And
Yeah.
my aunt said that is how serious
Hmm.
alcoholism is. That person could not make it through detox.
Yeah.
So tell me, you did have lots of, stories and different situations. What was it like when you first started trying to go through detox?
Well, so I feel like, you know what, at that end of my drinking career, as I call it, I was so sick every day. Like I was in and out of hospitals. I was vomiting. It was just, and I was taking a lot of pain pills at that time too. So the day I decided to quit, it was 2 days after the hospital told me not to drink anymore. And I continued to drink the next day. And I say that God, the universe, whatever people believe, I know it was God.
Yes.
He had me continue to drink that day. So I would go to work and get fired from my job, because I feel like if I wouldn't have got fired from my job that day and continued, because I worked at a sports bar, so I could drink there all the time. If I would have continued, I probably wouldn't be here today sharing this story with you.
Mm.
So when I got fired from that job, I knew that day that I had to do something, because I was going to die. And here was my son, who's 14 years old, whose dad is incarcerated for another 15 years or whatever. And I was going to die, and he wasn't going to have a parent. And I knew at that moment that I had to do something. So when I went through my detox, it was so, everything was focused on my son, which I know they say that when we get sober, we're supposed to focus, it's got to be for us. At
Mhm.
that time, I knew that I really didn't care much about myself at that moment, but I cared so much because I didn't want him to go through what I went through with my dad.
Right,
I didn't want him to wake up one day and find me on the floor like that, or in the bathtub.
right.
So when I did that detox, I mean, for 6 weeks, I went to AA meetings 3 times a day. I went to different friends' house. I talk about all that in the book. And the detox was horrible. Like, but I somehow, I mean, I've talked to nurses, I've talked to doctors since then, and they're like, we have no idea how you didn't go through seizures, how you didn't end up, in a coma or anything from what your blood alcohol was and everything like that. It was,
That that
I'm
was
a
God.
walking miracle.
That was God. That was nobody but
100%.
yeah.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Because I mean, I know someone that's a heroin addict,
Hmm.
and they went ahead and went through detox on their own, and they were sick for 2 weeks laying in the bed,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
sick, horribly sick. I
Yeah.
mean, so you did have all the physical manifestations though, right?
Yes.
And
Oh,
you just had to ride it out. I mean, like the very first night, is it like the cold sweats and shakes and
it
the
was all of that. But see, here's the thing. Like I say, I was so sick anyways, like from my pancreatitis and my liver, that I mean, every day, I mean, this is kind of gross, but I was vomiting yellow bile every day anyway. So I was sick every day and in pain. So when I went through my detox, yes, it was the chills, it was the hallucinations, it was everything. But I knew that if I could get through those days, that something would get better sooner than later, which
and
would be
I
alive.
just want to pull you up out of this dark place, but
Yeah.
I just want to ask this one question. Okay, so hallucinations. What do you see with hallucinations?
Oh man, I was seeing just all kinds of different, like a lot of, honestly, a lot of demons. I was seeing a lot of, like, black things, and just a lot of, I couldn't sleep, and I was just it was a lot, like a lot of times in my dreams, and I guess nightmares you call them. I mean, it was like I tried to sleep, and it was constantly like a dark thing following me everywhere I went, any house I went to, and it would be all darkness. And it was just a lot of dark moments. And, just the sweats, like you said, the vomiting, and just seeing different things. I don't even know what I was really seeing, just stuff, scary stuff.
But actually, what people don't understand is they it's like the spirit of pharmakeia is part of addiction. And I know with the smile on your face, you know what I'm talking about, where I'm going. And you open up a portal in the spirit realm, and you're able to see things. And people that don't have the education and the knowledge think, oh my God, this is crazy. But you've actually entered a spiritual realm, and
Yes.
and you're being attacked. And these things are basically their assignment is to destroy you. And so once
Mhm.
you get to that level, you're really in danger of losing your life.
Yeah.
And I wanted to read now the poem that you wrote. I'm not going to read the whole poem, but just at the end, you said you wrote this poem when you were 13, and it was a
Mhm.
poem about alcoholism. I said, man, that is so young. She was a baby. And at the end, the poem was long, but at the end, you said, hopefully your bottom will come before it's too late, because statistics show insanity or death is an alcoholic's fate. Don't think your life can be at ease, because alcoholism is a killer's disease.
Mhm.
Oh my God, let me not start crying, because that is really making me feel emotional. What emotion were you feeling behind the decision to write that poem about addiction that time, and where you were in your life?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing of it, it was just I always kind of wrote poems when I was after my dad passed away. Like it was kind of my outlet. And I wish I could find the other poem I wrote. I wrote another one, and it was about my dad leaving us. Like, how could you do that to us? How could you choose beer over your family, right?
Yeah.
And so that poem right there, when I wrote it, it was just exactly how I felt. And I watched this disease kill so many people in my family. Both sides of my family are alcoholics, addicts, both sides. So I watched this disease over and over and over again. And that's at the young age of 13. So imagine how much I've watched it now, even.
Right.
I've lost two uncles in the last 4 years, and it was because of addiction, and it's just so heartbreaking to me. But that at that moment, it was just how I felt. Like, this is what it's a killer disease. I know it is, you
Yeah.
know. And then here I ended up, what, 24 years later, the same as that. you
So,
know.
so tell me, with your son, you said, and I heard you break in your voice when you said you didn't want your son to come and find you on the floor. All the things that you were going through and the trajectory of your life, the way it was going, because of all the predisposition in your family and all of your relatives and people before you. How do you think that, what was your son going through during all this time? And have you guys ever had any conversations now on the rainbow side of all of what he saw and went through?
Yeah, yeah. So my son Chad is 32, and he is you can see I just light up when I talk about him, because he's
Yes.
the light of my life. And so when I was in my drinking career, so in 1992, I just want to add a little bit something here. In 1992, Chad was going to be 3, and I had another son, Cody, who passed away from SIDS at six and
I'm
a half months old.
sorry to hear that.
And so from then on, that point in my life is my focus was Chad, always Chad, 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 like he was my rock. And when I was drinking like I was, I worked a lot. I was at work 70 hours a week. So he was either with his grandparents or my other grandparents, so he was always with somebody. So I didn't really think he saw it. And
Mm,
I denied that. And I just found this out like maybe 4 years ago. Like, I'd always be like, well, he didn't really know I drank that much, blah, 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 blah. And
right.
he threw me under the bus one day. He was like, what, mom? You really believe that? And I was like, well, I was at work all the time. And he's like, yeah, but when you weren't at work, you were with me. And he saw all that, right? So he knows. And we do have conversations about it, what it was like for him, but he was gone a lot. So we didn't really have that time together. So since then, I've been able to make that up, taken on trips with me and things like that. And we have a really close relationship where we can talk about, what he went through, how he knows how the addiction affected me. But now, to know what my life is like now and my purpose and helping other people. And it's just been amazing for him too.
I,
He loved it.
I bet. Before we wrap up, which we still got time, because I want to get into that part of our conversation about you helping other people and what you're doing now. But I want to talk about how, oh my goodness, people that like us that have come from families with addiction and stuff, and mothers are so pivotal in the how our lives spiral out of control, because we watch what they do. We have this saying, parents play and the kids pay.
Mm.
So we watch our mothers, try to hold everything together like spinning plates, on
Mhm.
sticks all around our lives with our fathers and our uncles and our brothers. And in your story, you talked about how your mom took so much abuse, and how you would hear the beatings and the screamings, and just, stuff that wasn't her fault,
Right.
And then I said, wow, Tammy even had the molestation, the sexual abuse. And you said you woke up and your father was in your bed. I figured you had to have went through repressed memory syndrome, because you said there was a lot of that portion of your life that you don't even remember.
Mhm.
And we don't really, relish the fact of going to therapy and cracking those doors open,
Right.
and all those boogeymans come out. But when I read all of that, I said, why do we stay so long in
Mm.
abusive relationships?
Mm.
Why did your mom, I mean, rather than for her to leave, she sent you away. She
Mhm.
sent you guys away for protection. What do you think it was that made her just stay there so long?
You know, I sit and I think about that, like with my mom, but I don't know if you've read in there that I was in a relationship like that
Yeah,
with
I
my
did.
son's
But
dad.
yeah, but remember, I said I'm not going to try to give
Yeah,
all these.
that's right. That's right. So I think my mom, my mom and dad were so young when they got married. They were 19 and they had me right away, like married, had me, bought a house. And I'm pretty sure, we came from an Irish Catholic family,
Mhm.
and my grandma and grandpa were the same, dysfunctional like that. And I think that for my mom, one thing, it was kind of normal. And the other thing is she tried to not get divorced, tried to keep that and be that brick and mortar,
Mhm.
at the same time, not really knowing how to protect. And who do you go to? Who do you turn to when your whole family's like that?
Right.
So I really don't know, honestly, because it was I mean, I'm talking sometimes my mom would have a gun to her head from my dad. So, it's just to think, I don't know why people stay in that like that. It's
It's just such a myriad of reasons. I mean, not wanting to start over, and then even though the good times really don't outweigh the bad, but when the good times come, it seems like it's a salve for
yeah.
them that helps them just to stay longer. And then
Yeah.
thinking about the children and who would treat my children right. It's just a lot of things that go through mothers' heads, about I'm a single mom, so that's going to be. And even though a lot of times the income is not even there anyway, because they're spending it on liquor, drugs, or whatever, but they
Right.
get tricked by the devil in their head, thinking it's only going to be one salary, or worse yet, I don't have a job, so how I'm going to make it. It's just so many, many reasons.
Yeah.
But
Can I add to that real quick? I just want to add this part of it because I feel like too, in those situations, you are so mentally abused by that abuser that you think
right.
you're worthless. You cannot go anywhere. No one's going to hire you. No one's going to help you. And you go through all of that and you hear that every single day. And you hear, if you leave me, I'll kill you. If you do
Mhm.
that, I'll kidnap the kids. You have all of that coming at you. And back in 1970s, you didn't
Right.
have the support that we have now. You didn't have that, you know? So I think that was, a big thing too with it, just not having that support and just being completely broken and beaten down, you
That's
know?
true. You're right. To bring us back to the year in the
Yeah.
70s.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whole different era. Totally. That's like the baby boomer generation. So
Hmm.
to speak, and it's, yeah, baby boomers and then Gen Xers. So yeah,
Yeah.
totally, totally different times. And women, there was no Me Too back
Mm-mm.
then.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So we're going to turn the corner, um,
Okay.
so we don't run out of time and start going towards the good part. But I just want to say this one last quote, because like I said, I read so many things. I read about the guy with the blue eyes. I read about the beautiful blue eyes. I read about the guy you were so mad at, Josh, that died. I mean, I read about all
Hmm.
those things.
Hmm.
But I said, I can't talk about, I don't want to give away your book.
Right.
Um, this part you said, you spoke about an incident when you were on your way to find some crack, and a
Mm.
voice spoke in your head and said, if you go get this rock tonight and do it, you will never be the same.
Mm.
Man, that was chilling. What
Yeah.
did you think when you heard that voice?
Wow, I'm telling you what, it just gave me chills again just thinking about it because I will never ever forget that night. And I mean, I seriously, because I had tried the crack with at that time I hadn't had any kids yet, and I had tried it and I liked it. Well, of course I did, because then I was on my way to go get it, right? And I was by myself driving down roads that I should not have even been down. And that voice came and it said it so powerful that I seriously slammed on my brakes, turned my car around, went home, and I just sat and prayed. I was like, and that was it. I knew at that moment that, yeah, I wouldn't probably be here today again, you know?
And that was your turning point, because that was after I laughed when I said, she's a gangster, because I would have did this. You went to a crack house to go get your stuff back.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I did. Oh yeah.
And the reason why you didn't get in there is because the doggone place was burnt to the ground.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
So I'm like, oh my gosh. I said, she is something else. It's something to hear those defining moments, you know, when that voice spoke. That was, you know, the Spirit of the Lord naturally that spoke and saved your life, you know, and then gave you the fortitude to turn around and say, you know what, that's it. I've had it. Enough. It is enough. So, I mean, I have a bunch of other questions, but we're like maybe 7 minutes away, and I can't go there. I really wish I could. I want to talk about, you know, how you stood strong through all the deaths in 2020 and about you quitting your two. I do have to say this one thing, because you quit these two jobs. In chapter 4, you wrote that at one point you had made a decision to quit your job at a restaurant and your 9-to-5 job, and you were only going to work at a casino and live on tips. And I said, did this woman know that she was actually walking in the principle of faith at that time? Mm-hmm. Because you had that down on the inside of you, and you made it. Yeah. And that was like the beginning of part of your turning to the Lord and really changing your life, because you had that measure of faith that every man is given. That was awesome.
Yes. Yes. And I still to this day do that. Like, I have so much faith that God's going to just get me through. Like right now I'm going through a big transition too. Like, I'm living in Arizona. I'm getting ready to go back to Ohio. I got all this stuff going on, but, and sometimes I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, pray and have your faith. And all of a sudden the wave starts, like right now I'm on this, once again, this great wave, like it's coming again, because I turned it around and had that faith again. Faith is so important. It's just everything. Amazing, a miracle.
You can't move them without it. It's everything. Yeah. All right, so let's get your podcast in, all the stuff that you're doing. And then I didn't even know that HOPE was an acronym.
Yes.
Helping other people evolve.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So the best story. So I was starting a blog, right? And I was like, I'm going to call it, I don't know what yet. And I was at an event, and it was an overdose awareness event. It was pretty morbid. We opened a casket, and you saw pill bottles in there and needles. And basically that's what's going to happen. Right. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't met any of these people before. And there was a couple of people there that had lost children, and there were a couple of people in recovery. And the one lady said, okay, I'm going to share the story of losing my daughter, but who's going to share hope? And that word just went, hope. I was like, oh my gosh, I love that word. It's so little, but it's so big. Mm-hmm. So I was driving home from the event, and I kept going, helping other people. And I heard the voice again say, evolve. And I'm like, no, I don't like that. And I'm listening, and I keep hearing evolve, and I get home and I'm like, no, I don't like evolve. And I called my good friend and I said, hey, Lori, guess what? I know I'm going to name my blog. And she said, what? I said, hope. She's like, I can't wait for people to hear how you evolved. And I was like, oh, well, shoot. Here we go. There it is. Right. And so, sorry, hold on.
That's okay. Sorry. Hey, live TV.
Live TV. Yeah. So anyway, so then I was like, okay, then it's evolve. And that was just the beginning of my blog. I had no idea I was going to do a podcast at all.
Wow.
And I was going to do my podcast in 2019, and just things kind of fell through. And 2020, I was going to start it. That's when everything fell through. I lost my friend Josh, just everything. We all know what 2020 was for everybody, right? I'm not saying anything different from anybody. It was a year from hell, excuse my language. But and so 2021, I said, you know what? I am starting this on my sobriety date. And I still had no idea what I was doing. I was just going to try to help other people. That's it. Know that you can get through a struggle and get to a strength. And then I began interviewing people, and it's been the most amazing, incredible journey that I've been on.
So, not to throw shade on any of your guests, but tell me who was one of the most, look at your face. You know where I'm going. Who was like one of the most exciting people that you had, interviewers or what guests that you interviewed?
Oh my goodness. You know what? It's so hard because there's so many, but I'd have to say one of my best interviews was, we had a police officer in Toledo shot on 4th of July of
Mm.
2020. And he was a Muslim police officer. And so it was kind of like ironic 4th of July. He was shot and killed. Well, I'm good friends with his wife. And I
Mm.
interviewed her story, and her story of hope was so incredible because they loved each other so much that she was like, that's where she's at peace with it. So her story was incredible. I've interviewed a man that goes around and he's getting matching tattoos with people. He has kidney cancer, and he has 419 tattoos. And now he started a nonprofit that will help people that are terminally ill when they pass away, pay for their funeral expenses. So his story was incredible. I
Wow.
mean, there's just so many stories of hope out there. And the biggest thing for me, I've been telling people, is when I get done interviewing somebody, like yesterday I interviewed a gentleman that his story was like, whoa. But when I got done, he thanked me because he's never shared his story. So I'm giving people a platform to share their stories of a struggle.
How can people get on your podcast?
So my podcast is called Hope, Helping Other People Evolve. You have to put the periods in there.
Okay.
And to get on there, message me and I will have it. I love having people on my podcast, but I'm on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio. I have a YouTube channel. It's Tammy Lynn Connors, 1N.
Subscribe to her YouTube channel. I'm gonna subscribe tonight. It's called It's called Tammy Lynn Connors, just like your name on the screen.
Like my name. I have all my platforms with my name. Hope, Helping Other People Evolve. But all my Instagram, Facebook is all Tammy Lynn Connors.
Great. Well, look for me because I'm going to be asking you for a friend request for sure. And before we go, I want to ask you to do this for our listeners. If you could leave our audience, I said listeners, I'm so used to doing all other kind of stuff. Our viewers, the people that are with us tonight, if you could leave them with something you would like them never to forget about your story, what would that be?
About my story myself.
Yes.
You know what? I come from a long line of a whole lot of struggles. And I believe that because of my struggles, God has made me live through them in order for me to help you guys get through life. Because I honestly should not be here today. There's so many things that I went through that I shouldn't be here. But if I can sit here and I can just be me, you can be you, and you can get through anything. You just need to get the tools and the people in your life to help you. And for one thing, faith is huge for me. Like I said, I believe God. A lot of people, God, universe, whatever you want to believe, but you have to have that faith and just know that we can all get through anything. Some days it might not feel like you can, but I promise you can. And find the people to listen to and talk to, I'm just blessed to be here, and I just love sharing that you can still live life and be happy even though you've went through some trauma in your life.
This is a very inspiring story, Tammy. This was really great for me to be able to have this conversation with you. You are a real one. You are a real one. And this is genuine. And I know all you guys that are watching us, tonight are going to be, inspired. There's a few of you on here that this is going to be a lifeline for you, and hope for you. You're going to get her book. I know you are, right? You're going to get her book. And the name of her book is A Story of Hope, Helping Other People Evolve. And also her podcast. I know you guys are going to get on that and subscribe to her YouTube channel. But when you read her book, there's so much in there that we just left so you can get inspiration. And she said it's like a lifeline. And it's almost, there's some stuff in there that's like a blueprint. And then, for us to have this conversation and her to bring out how important it is for you to have faith, and to believe, because you gotta believe in something bigger than yourself.
Yes.
That's the whole thing about this platform, that it's called purpose. You were created for a purpose, and Tammy's life was saved by God for this day, for her to walk in her purpose. And now she's walking in her purpose instead of laying in a crack house somewhere. So all of you that are listening tonight that feel like there's no hope, there's hope. There is hope. There's someone praying for you. There was someone praying for both of us, praying for Tammy to get here tonight. Believe me, there is somebody praying for you. So get her book. Thank you, Tammy Lynn Connors. This was definitely a pleasure talking with you tonight. And I wish you all the success in your podcast and all the success in your walk in helping other people evolve.
Thank you so much, June.
You are welcome. So we will see you guys again next month on Purpose. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Camped out at home for COVID? Join us, Indie TV, where you will see the talk shows, movies, drama, action, and comedy. Be the first and see it first. Sign up now for free at Indie TV.